the Agbogbloshie Makerspace platform, where it's like the acronym is AMP, right? So how is it that we started talking about this project? It's because DK, my partner on the project, and I are both architects, and we've been thinking a lot about smart cities and how dumb they were. And we were thinking, well, the more electronics we were putting in our smart cities, the more e-waste we will be producing. And so we were trying to understand, okay, what was around that. And then came a call about, working with the informal sector. DK has worked a lot on the informal sector. And we were like, and he's based in Ghana. And so we were thinking, well, why not tackling that e-waste problem? Because it's definitely linked to our our dumb cities. So that's just trying to visualize how much e-waste we are generating. This is obviously talking about mobile phone, appliances, all that. But the more we're putting sensors in our buildings, and the smarter our buildings are becoming, the more e-waste and we're producing. So it goes beyond just the mobile phone, right? And so it obviously goes to Agbogbloshie. It's unfair to show you picture like that when we have a photographer coming afterwards and showing you pictures of Agbogbloshie. But this is the first time I came there. This what I saw. And it's curious because Agbogbloshie, you just realize when you go there that yes, a lot of people talk about e-waste, but it's much more than that. So you can see that you have scrap metal. You obviously have these people burning the cables to get the wire to copper. And so they do that because it's just fast. So the work is fast and furious. The more money I can get, the better. So, the faster I get the money, the better. And this is why they do it. And then the problem is that on this site you also have a river, and some years ago there was fish in this river, and that there's no more. So as architects, urban designer, we're really thinking, well, how can we as designer tackle this problem? So I'm not designing a phone, but I'm definitely working on something. I'm an architect, designer, urban designer. I think about that. What can I do? So that's the AMP team, like looking really intense, debriefing. So you have DK, you have Ivy, she's a material scientist. You have Kay, who is like a field agent, and Sam, who is actually on the ground. We have a little bit more. They're working on putting the Makerspace, putting up the Makerspace, which is starting to be built finally after an all year like designing this space. What is a Makerspace? Right, Rafa has asked me this tough question. Well, in the old days, actually, when you were working on miniature train railway objects, with people around and friends, you were basically making stuff, right? And so it's basically a place where you make things. Today, makerspaces are using digital technologies. So we talk also about fab labs and all that, using, digital technologies. You can have 3D printer or laser cutter you still make stuff. You make it together. So it's not DIY, it's DIT. So do it together. You do things together and you learn from each other. So a makerspace is a place where you learn from each other to do things that you want to be doing. So it's, if I summarize roughly what it is. And why is it pertinent in Agbogbloshie is because we are interested, we believe that basically we can do not R&D in Agbogbloshie, but we can do M&D, we can make and learn. So it's developing a capacity and learning by doing stuff. And what can we do in Agbogbloshie? This is what I want to show. This makerspace that we are building, we want to make sure that it's a space and a design. By doing AMP, we want to empower makers, what we call makers in Agbogbloshie, to handle e-waste according to best practices. So they learn by making how to handle e-waste according to best practice. We want to enable them to upcycle e-waste into value-added product, make something out of e-waste. I don't know if you heard about the Wafat. The Wafat is the 3D printer made out of e-waste. It's made in Ghana. It was made in Togo. And so our friends from the Wall Lab in Togo have made this 3D printer. So it's basically using material that is found there to create value-added product, create the opportunity for makers to earn money from selling the value-added products. So we call Manu digital factor because they use hands and they use digital tools to manufacture, to create objects, and to develop a savings cooperative that amplifies the maker community's individual and collective capacity for entrepreneurship. So to develop this collective. So we spent actually an entire year to, at least, to talk with people in the informal sector on the ground. Some people have talked about the informal very briefly. In fact, we've learned that they know a lot. And they're pretty good with money. We've been following them, so this is a graph for the academics. So we started doing that. We realized going on the ground like more than 100 times this year that they have, like all around Agbogbloshie, you have weighting scales because they have to weight their scrap. So we were asking them, we went there with and weighting the scales. Ivy went there, and Sam, which is the field agent who is working in Agbogbloshie, also learned how to do that. And so they started to try to weight the materials and to see, how much copper was going through from week 1 to week 3, and we're continuing doing that. So we have a lot of data that we haven't yet analyzed, but we're working on it. We're gathering all this data. We're also recording our track, using smartphones. So it's not a Fairphone, sorry, just that this is just like an early example showing that we were like meeting all the scrap dealers, and we have like 3,000 pictures of the place showing where people are working, and we are somehow mapping Agbogbloshie. When you look at Agbogbloshie at the moment, you see, this is where the digital dump is, and Rafa's been good at using OpenStreetMap and like putting a cross, a square around where there is like a football field, and so people have a life in this place. And there is an entire economy going around. And the great thing is, so with all the pictures that you've seen, the 3,000 pictures that we have, we've tagged them according to the activity conducted in Agbogbloshie. We've realized that there were like 16 mosques there. There's I don't know how many weight stations that we have, sales and repair, that you have a gradation of activities in Agbogbloshie. So you have scavengers, so you have people burning cables, you have people repairing, people selling the materials, and you also have makers. The thing that we don't understand enough is that in Agbogbloshie, they're already making stuff. And this is what I want to show. So this is someone disassembling a washing machine. But you also have people making tools to disassemble washing machines. And I don't know if you can see this kind of weird element here on the image, but this is a machine that's been designed in Agbogbloshie to so there is a little bit of fire, that the fire is continuous over there, so they can they can create the tool that they need to. So they're already creating machines, they're using all the refrigerators to make barbecue stands, and so we started also in our Makerspace, like creating oven, so to melt plastic that they also recycle. So these are the type of items that we start doing with them. So with the informal sector and also amazing students from the community, the engineering community in Ghana, all around Ghana, are coming to help us. So what we're talking about here is inter-class innovation. Is like people who don't have degrees and went to engineering school in Ghana are also mixing with the informal sector to create these items that we're putting in the Makerspace. So we basically building capacity and helping, I don't like this word, we're basically providing the space and the tools and the capacity to innovate and create innovation locally. It's made in Ghana, so we're not importing anything. We're just like making it local. That's also why we call it made in Agbogbloshie. So we also design a sprayer. So that's like a sprayer. We had fun doing it. The students, the kids had a lot of fun doing it. A sprayer out of like is using a refrigerator. How do you say, a part of a refrigerator? Yeah, a compressor. Yeah, exactly. And so they're by making these, they're also learning what to do with it. But the same way when we disassemble material, we also learn about what it means to actually reverse engineering. What we learn about the object, we learn about we have some distance. We manage to understand what it means to make an object and all the process it goes through making such an object. So the relationship that we have with the object is different. So by making, we also learn about the object. And so in that space, we're planning. So this is like the team. We're having the team. So I think you recognize the person on the picture here. But these are the team of students. We have workshops happening, and right now we held workshops at different hubs and in Accra and places in Accra. This was at the Kokobite Institute, but we are also staying at Hub Accra, and we have like the students coming from all over Ghana. Actually, this one is a little genius, right? He was flying the quadcopter that Rafa had brought at some point. That was interesting. And so this is, I don't know if you notice that. If you notice that, do you know that project? So we had our friend from the Wole Lab who came in and taught us how to do a jerry can. So basically, we went to Agbogbloshie, we sourced materials to make a computer out of like EWaste parts, and we put them in a jerry. So this is like a project that is been developed in France by a team of makers, and it's an open source project. And so we've learned to make it, and so we've also like taught people in the informal sector in Agbogbloshie to make it, and they were super interested. They were super interested because they said, I want to learn how to make it. I want to be able to sell that jerry can in Agbogbloshie. This costs like 60 Ghana CD actually to make a computer out of like e-waste. We also, that was the very beginning of our manuals basically a part of like our project was also to create information on how to disassemble and reassemble the e-waste part, and how to do it in a good manner. But in fact, what we are very inspired about is the Han Academy. I don't know if you heard about that, the videos online where you learn. Basically, instead of going to school, you could spend your entire life in front of the Han Academy and learn about everything you need to learn about. But looking at videos or how to do things, and this is probably the way we're going. This is the Makerspace, which is this, it looks like a spaceship, right? We call it the spacecraft. It's a space, and we're crafting things. So as you've seen before, we only have like the space frame, the octet truss frame. But you also notice that we have small carts that are going to be inserted in that space, and it will close and open in Agbogbloshie, in the box in Agbogbloshie. So the Makerspace is not only the hardware, it's also a software, and there is, so that's just an image. Don't kill me for that image because I'm using a smartphone, but believe me, in Africa there'll be smartphone very soon. Actually, our field agent already got one in Agbogbloshie. But the idea is that we are also working on a mobile app where we can get information, have access information about how much the copper costs today, or at how much I can sell the copper, what's in a washing machine, and how I can have access to information about how, to dismantle it, or what's the part in a washing machine and how dangerous this is, and if I can sell it from one person to another, so peer-to-peer selling, and helping and allowing, sorry, I erase help, and allowing the informal sector and the makers to use this app. I think that was my last image. If you want to learn more about AMP, you just go to CampNet, and you have a lot of pictures of it. I think that's all I want to say.